Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Thursday Night Football Week 11 of the 2023 NFL season, Bengals versus Ravens. And with that, we're just going to go ahead and jump right in, starting with the Cincinnati Bengals. And Bengals coach Zach Taylor said today, Friday, that Joe Burrow suffered a torn ligament in his wrist and will miss the remainder of the season. And Burrow was unable to grip a football while throwing on the sideline before leaving for the locker room. Taylor initially said the injury looked like a sprained wrist, but that was optimistic thinking. Speaking to reporters, Burrow acknowledged he was wearing a compression sleeve on his hand before the game, but said it was unrelated to the wrist ligament injury he suffered. Burrow's season comes to an end after 10 games, 2,309 yards, and 15 touchdowns. He got off to a slow start because of a calf injury but found his stride after a few games. Instead of leading his team to an exciting playoff chase to close the year, the Bengals will be helmed by Jake Browning for the remainder of the season, barring a change at quarterback. And give credit to Browning, he was thrown into a tough spot against the Ravens, but was unable to rally the team in the game. He threw for a touchdown, but by then it didn't really matter, and it's more likely than not that with Cincinnati already on the outside looking in for the playoff picture, Burrow's injury probably ends any hope Cincinnati had in making the postseason. And with Jake Browning under center, expect the Bengals to probably go more run heavy with Joe Mixon, but that would also lead to predictable running situations to make Mixon easier to defend, so that would be a negative for the Cincinnati Bengals there. Although their Week 12 opponent Pittsburgh has had a soft run defense, so maybe you can take advantage of that and just be able to pull the win that way. But with the out of character penalties that they had, especially on offense with delay of game, I don't know. I don't know what this offense is going to be. I don't know what it's going to look like, especially for Jamar Chase. What does the Burrow injury mean for him and his production going forward? So Cincinnati went from a team that was going to go on a run and possibly make the postseason to, well, their season's probably over. And it's a shame, too. This is a good football team. Joe Burrow's a great quarterback. It's easy to write off Browning. Haven't seen what he did against the Ravens, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what next week brings, but there's not a whole lot of reason for optimism. Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson also got nicked up in this game, but the Ravens are still humming on offense, and it was Jackson's first multi-score outing in 4 starts while he was routinely gashing the Bengals' big play permissive defense for chunk gains, and Jackson could have had an even bigger night, but he missed each of Odell Beckham and Rashard Bateman for long gains in the first half. He also had a 68-yard touchdown strike to Zay Flowers called back by a phantom holding penalty. It was an excellent night, one where Jackson also played through a left ankle injury for the majority of the proceedings. Despite limping around between plays, he appeared no worse for wear on his scrambles. He will be sore on Friday and probably the rest of the week, and probably after that. But he has 10 days to heal up for a Week 12 showdown against a atrocious Chargers defense. And then you look at the running game, led by Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards had a couple of touchdowns, and those were his 9th and 10th of the season, vaulting and past Christian McCaffrey for second in the league behind Raheem Morstead. Edward also added a couple of receptions for 8 yards. Did see 9 more handles to Keaton Mitchell, who seems to establish a permanent change of pace role. Now that does erode some of Edwards' compiling opportunities, but he's a scoring base back in the mold of 2022 Jamal Williams. There will be plenty of drives for Edwards to finish against a porous Chargers defense. And Odell Beckham had his first 100-yard game since the 21 through 22 NFC Championship game. Beckham then got his shoulder rocked by Logan Wilson, who was responsible for the injury to Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews as well. Beckham did remain down for a bit, but then made his way to the injury tent on his own power. The only good news for a player who has had touchdowns in 3 straight games is that he has 10 days to get right for a matchup against a awful Chargers defense. So expect to see him on the injury report and stay tuned to what his status is. But Baltimore's going to need him going forward because, as NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reported, Mark Andrews suffered a cracked fibula and ankle ligament injury. There's not an official word that he will miss the rest of the season, but given what John Harbaugh said after the game, it sounds like Andrews will miss the rest of the season, and that is a blow to the Ravens offense. I think it's fair to say he's their best pass catcher. their number one option in the passing game. But Zay Flowers has continued to progress and continue to play good as the season rolls on. Odell Beckham just had his first 100-yard game. Nelson Aguilar is capable of scoring some touchdowns. So there is going to be a dip in production in the passing game, but it's probably not going to fall off completely. I think they still have the pieces in place to still be productive passing wise, and with Keaton Mitchell coming on like he has recently in the past couple of weeks, that offense is still going to be supported by a strong run game, and their defense is still good as well. I mean, this is a very well-rounded team. They are in a good spot to make a run, not only in to basically seal up the NFC North and make a run to the Super Bowl. And with that will conclude this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.